What is Columbus Day? When do we celebrate it? Was Columbus a hero or a villain? Should we celebrate Columbus Day? Who knew Columbus Day was so controversial? As I answer these questions with you, I want you to keep in mind how controversy is a part of our everyday lives. Whether it be about same-sex marriages, misconduct by police officers, immigration, or minimum wage, like many of you mentioned in our discussion post, we as a society will never be able to avoid controversy. Also, keep in mind that controversy has been deep into our history, like when people had to decide whether or not to boycott imported goods during the Boston Massacre of 1770, or when people had to decide if they wanted to allow women to vote in 1920. With that being said, let's do a little digging. Columbus Day is a holiday in which people across the world celebrate the anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in and discovery of the American continent, which happened on October 12, 1492. For centuries, we have celebrated this day as a way of recognizing the accomplishments made in America since Columbus arrived. The federal holiday has been taught in schools by song, rhyme, and historical examination for countless years. Now I'm going to show you a YouTube video. Please bear with me as I get it to play at the correct time, and we'll go from there.
The Taino. Trade began between the two parties, but it was clear that the Taino did not possess the fabled riches of East Asia. However, some of them wore gold as jewelry. Columbus was hungry for gold to bring back to Spain. He wandered around searching for a large amount of gold until the Santa Maria crashed into a reef on Hispaniola. Columbus left 39 men at the site to build a colony. He promised he would return for them and sailed back to Spain. When he arrived in Europe, Columbus was famous. He had sailed into the unknown and returned to tell the tale. He brought back many things to show the Spanish king and queen, including Tainos he had kidnapped. But he did not bring enough gold, so Ferdinand and Isabella equipped Columbus with 17 ships for his second voyage, and named him governor of all the lands he discovered. Columbus was an excellent sailor.
All right. Now that we've got some background information, I think it's time to move on to the more controversial side. Now, in recent years, analysts have revisited the meanings behind Columbus Day and brought about controversy to that acclaimed celebration, with allegations of foul treatment towards indigenous people during European exploration and Columbus's ignorance in finding the New World. Commentators have raised awareness and disputation regarding Columbus Day. Now, should we celebrate Columbus Day? Of course, it is completely up to you, the individual, whether or not you participate in Columbus Day celebration. When making this decision, I suggest you research and closely examine the many accounts of the explorer, Christopher Columbus. I believe in tradition as well as diversity and inclusion. I do not believe that we should do away with Columbus Day. Instead, I urge you to recognize the discoveries that Columbus Day represents and the enlightenments and advancements of what we've gained since then. So in order to make this decision on whether or not you want to celebrate Columbus Day, you've got to see what the critics say. So critics suggest that Columbus was not really the first person to find America, and that he only stumbled upon it because he thought it was the West Indies. Now, keep in mind, during this time period, navigators did not have the technology that we had then. They couldn't just say, "Hey Siri, take me to America." But on a serious note, they didn't have the luxury of GPS. Instead, these navigators were skilled seamen who worked diligently to open trade routes across oceans. And what they did have was previous notes from explorers in the past, generations worth of sketches and marginal notes, and those are what they relied on. Another thing I found interesting about the controversy of Columbus Day was how people interpret it. Some of you that commented on my discussion post this week stated that you just saw the holiday as a day off of work or school, and I was the same way until I began this research. We all learned that in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and that's when America was found. But in school, we are taught an easy way to memorize and recite the correct answers on the test, but we are hindered from learning all the aspects of the different subjects. Columbus Day is not just about Christopher Columbus hopping on a ship with a map and a compass and happening upon America. It is more than that. It's about recognizing the people who have contributed to America's greatness. The holiday is celebrated in many ways. By Italian Americans, it's their way of observing their history, the day that marks their history and heritage. In Spain, Columbus Day is a day to celebrate diversity. In Venezuela, it is celebrated as a day of indigenous resistance. And throughout America, some states do not even commemorate the arrival of Columbus. Instead, they pay tribute to the cultures that were here before Columbus. Now, realizing why Columbus Day is important is very effective when deciding if we should celebrate it. William Connell, a history professor at Seton Hall University, made a statement in an article regarding the meaning of Columbus Day. He said, "The idea lost on present-day critics of the holiday was that this would be a national holiday that would be special for recognizing both Americans who were here before Columbus and the many immigrants, including Italians, who were just then coming to the country in astounding numbers." The new celebration did create conflict between Italian Americans and Native Americans. Tragedies occurred, and division of all people in America was intensified. But these types of things always happen after a change or addition has been made in our society. Not saying that it's accepted or welcoming, but a person cannot honestly think that the refutation will not occur. So, Columbus Day is for all Americans and surrounding populations. It marks the encounter between the people of the original Americans and the future ones. Like Connell said, the holiday marks the event, not the person. The American society does not allow us to look at the big picture any longer. Instead, it separates the pieces, broadcasts the negative aspects of the subject, and hides the positive ones. When observing the views of critics, we must be able to understand where they're coming from. Historians agree that while inventing his big scheme, Columbus made massive miscalculations about the circumference of the world. These miscalculations led to the rejection of his plan by the royal experts of the court. Now, these early critics were in fact correct regarding Columbus's errors and calculation of the distance from Europe to Asia. But Columbus persisted, stubbornly, if not blindly, in a defense of his ideas. I mean, can you blame Christopher Columbus for being ambitious and wanting to find or make a difference in the world? He was shot down and declined multiple times while looking for sponsorship for his journey to find a western sea route to China, India, and the fabled gold and spice islands of Asia. However, he never gave up. Even though Columbus did not return to Spain with enormous amounts of treasures like he had projected, he created a labyrinth between two estranged realms. If Columbus did not consistently edge his way towards the New World, who is to say that you and I would even be here today? Now, examining data can also help in making a decision on whether or not you want to participate in celebrating Columbus Day. It also helps to see how you want to view it. As we can see, a 56% majority of Americans view Columbus favorably, but just 41% think he should get his own federal holiday, while 38% say we shouldn't celebrate Columbus Day at all. Now, some of that may be your sour grapes. Just 13% of people employed full-time and 18% of people employed part-time say they get Columbus Day off. Those workers who are enjoying a 3-day weekend are 21 more points likely than the rest of them to support keeping the holiday. Now, if it helps validate my position, the company that I work for doesn't observe Columbus Day, which means we don't get the day off and we don't get holiday pay. But I still support Columbus Day and what it stands for. While everyone may have a different opinion, and we certainly cannot please everyone, we owe it to ourselves, especially in today's society, to unite and find a solution to this division. We may call it Columbus Day, but do we truly realize why we celebrate this federal holiday? Christopher Columbus is the original narrator of a remarkable fish story. His adventures and dedications to exploration led to an uncovering of not only the New World, but our world. His actions, good, bad, smart, and ignorant, all came together to create the bigger picture of the diversity that is America. Thank you.